killing the person and making him hate himself, which is such a big damage. Like this, they dismantled the unity of the whole Hindu civilization. When the Hindus got dismantled, they took away the sovereignty and broke the nation, broke the 56 Hindu nation into fragments.
Of course, these are our history, but what is happening today? See, the Kailasa is the most vulnerable to all the decisions. They have attacked, they are the most victim for this decision. Today, Kailasa stands, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism stands for the revival of all these ancient enlightened Hindu civilization nations. By this, however, this Hindu mystic media elements narrative states that Kailasa is a cult and is a fictional nation. By uttering this, it is fundamentally violating the fundamental rights of the 2 billion Hindu diasporas. By stating a nation fictions, it is removing the fundamental rights of the 2 billion Hindu diasporas.
In fact, the CTA, the Criminal Trials Act, is no more applied to individuals or communities. It is now being applied to the nation of KAILASA by calling it as a cult. Just because of the practice of Hinduism, just because of revival of Hinduism, just because we are the indigenous Hindus reviving the true glory of Sanatana Hindu Dharma, they call us a cult. Is this not shameful? Are they not ashamed? This is what is racism. This is what is xenophobia. None of which exist in Hinduism. How can racism exist in Hinduism? Let us see what this report has to tell about this.
Shame on the anti-Hindu medias and shame on the yellow medias, because they never stood for the truths. They always been influenced by the deep state elements who fed them with all their money, political influence, and they have continuously attacked all the Hindus, Hindu gurus who stood for the Hinduism. So what is the main reason for the attacks of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism? Because he stood for Hinduism. He stood for reviving a sovereign Hindu nation.
Now let us understand what was lost and how much was lost. We see the destruction. Let me read the report for you. The Hindu Holocaust has, for the last 2000 years, gone through a massive destruction, resulting in loss of 56 Hindu nations that spanned over 6 million kilometers square of Asia. This resulted in the loss of more than 500 million lives. More than 4 million Hindus were enslaved. More than 160 million Hindus were starved to death. Thousands of temples were destroyed, and more than million Hindu educational institutions were destroyed. Libraries were burnt down.
Yes, these numbers are very important, not only for the global viewers, even for the neo-Hindus, because they doesn't know about the history, because the very history has the very Hindu Holocaust. Today, whatever the history you know about Hinduism, it is fabricated by the British colonizers and this anti-Hindu medias. Let me tell the numbers once again. It is a 2000 years of persecution, and 56 Hindu nations have lost its sovereignty, and 500 plus millions has been massacred during this entire persecutions. And almost more than 4 million Hindus have been accused of rape, sex, and they have been completely dismantled from the very life itself.
But understand, all these things never happened in Hindu nations. The reason is there was no casteism, there was no xenophobia, there was no racial discrimination. How can there be any racial discrimination or casteism in Hinduism when we believe the glorious principles of Hinduism? Now let us see directly from the report what it has.
Of course, the fundamental principles taken, the measure taken by the Kailasa is implementing Paramashivam, that is, you are Paramashiva. Which nation, which community, which religion even gives this rights to everyone that you are treated as the ultimate body of the religion? But of course, we're bringing more facts to all of you. We want all the viewers to stay tuned with us. There are clips, more details on this 21st reports by the United Nations on Kailasa. Stay tuned with us.
Around 5,000 years ago, at the end of Mahabharat War, the ancient enlightened Hindu civilization consisted of 10,000 Hindu traditions, or sampradayas, that existed in 56 Hindu nations, 200 Hindu kingdoms, 1,700 Hindu provinces that covered more than 6 million kilometers square of Asia. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, SPH, BHAGAVAN Nithyananda Paramashivamam, is the reviver of KAILASA. this ancient, enlightened Hindu civilizational nation. Kailasa is an unbroken cultural, religious, historical, civilizational, and sovereign continuation and revival of multiple of these historical Hindu sovereign states and Hindu ecclesiastical entities. The unbroken continuity of these ancient Hindu nations through Kailasa results in the legal recognition of Kailasa as per the international customary law, particularly the doctrine of continuity. The international law, the doctrine of continuity, implies that upheavals and revolutions within a country, changes in government, territorial adjustments, measures taken during military occupation, or other internal transformations do not negate the existence of the country, do not affect the legal personality and international obligations of the country or state. The Vienna Convention on Succession of States in respect of treaties, 1978, addresses these principle of the doctrine of continuity as it outlines international law during situation of state succession or continuation. International law recognizes a state's legal personality by recognizing its identity. This perspective extends even during the period when the given state or country is annexed or occupied by a foreign power. Even in such cases, the legal personality of the state is considered to persist, enabling its subsequent re-establishment. Historical examples dating back to the 18th century include cases like Portugal and Genoa that were re-established after the Vienna Congress of 1815. More recent examples include countries such as Poland, Ethiopia, Czechoslovakia, Albania, and Austria that were re-established after World War II. Even when a nation is deprived of its territory, the nation continues to exist. Its sovereignty and international legal personality continues to persist. The Dalai Lama, as the spiritual and temporal leader of Tibet, exemplifies this principle. In 1959, the Dalai Lama was exiled and forced to flee. Despite the challenges faced, the Dalai Lama continues to advocate for the preservation of Tibetan culture and garners worldwide support for Tibetan autonomy on the global stage. Similarly, from 1309 to 1376, the Pope of Catholicism had been in exile in Avignon. Despite this, he was recognized as the head of state as well as head of the church and given full privileges of the position after their return to Rome. Even in 1861, much of the papal territories had been lost, leaving the Pope with no sovereign territory.
The last segment we have spoken about the 6
Now we are back and continuing on the release of the 21st report of Kailasa by the United Nations. So we have been going through the persecution that the Hindus have gone through in the last 2000 years and particularly in the last 200 years. We understand that more than 6 million kilometers square of sovereign territory was lost. We understand 56 Hindu nations were lost. We understand 500 million Hindus were killed. But we do not understand, we still do not understand what was really lost. We need to know Hinduism, we need to understand the gifts of Hinduism to understand what we have been gone through. So let us understand directly from the report what it has to say.
Yes, the very fundamental reason why Kailasa exists, why Kailasa has to be revived, is to tell the world that humanity, the superconscious breakthrough, is available for the humanities. And here are the policies and the measures taken by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and Kailasa to eradicate the racism from the entire humanity, not just from the Hinduism, from the entire humanity. The first principle is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The whole world is my family. When you bring this policy in your country, how a war can be induced between countries and countries.
So let us understand by this principle. Many of us know Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam means whole world is my family, but we need to understand the word itself, the Sanskrit word. Vasudhaiva, Vasudha, Mother Earth, Kutumbakam, the family of Mother Earth. Just by translation, you will understand how beautifully the Hindus cognize our ancestors had powerful cognitions about the world. Earth is my mother, and each and every being is my family. Because we are from the same mother, how can there be discrimination? How can there be fight? And that is why Hindus lived beautifully and peacefully, because we lived by these principles.
And second is the ahimsa, non-violence. See, the fundamental principle with which Kailasa has been established is ahimsa paramo dharmaha, that non-violence is the ultimate cosmic law. See, many times this non-violence has been put as their powerlessness. But how many of you know that all the fears, angers, violence, frustration, these are the powerlessness, not non-violences. Very clearly understand the world peace can be brought into the country not by wars, by only non-violence. By standing on these principles, KAILASA stands and for the United Nations for the global peace.
We have contributed to the world in extraordinary ways. We talk about the problem of xenophobia. We talk about the problem of racism. None of these problems exist in Hindu nations. How can it exist? Because we never treated people as merely equal. People are not just equal. Today, the human rights treats all people as equal, whereas Hinduism teaches us people are divine. Everyone is divine. It is much higher and powerful cognition compared to all people equal. And because of this powerful cognitions, we treated everybody as divine. We treated plants as divine. We treated animals as divine. We treated land as divine. We treated inanimate objects as divine. And because we saw Paramashiva, lived with Paramashiva in each and every aspect of this cosmos, because of that, we lived peacefully with nature. We lived peacefully with each other. These are the gifts of Hinduism which have been lost when the 56 Hindu nations were lost.
And today we are speaking about the racism. Of course, it is not just in Hinduism. The entire world faces the racism all around the world. But what is the solution KAILASA is giving? What is the solution Hinduism is giving is Advaita. The only experience, only principle which belongs to Hinduism is Advaita. How many of you know that Hindus have fundamentally rooted in the Advaita, oneness with the entire world, entire universe? Then where comes the racism?
And when we understand the destruction by the caste system, it might look superficial. But when we look at this reality, it is not just the territory was lost. It is not just the community was lost. It is not just the unity was lost. It is not just the principles were lost. It is not just the quality of life was lost. The entire ecosystem, which beautifully and happily